History is often seen as a collection of facts, a neat timeline of events, names, and dates that we memorize in school. We're taught to believe that these facts are set in stone, that the past is a finished story, already told and fully understood. But is that really the case? Is history truly as complete and objective as it appears in textbooks and documentaries? What if, instead, what we call history is only half the story? What if the narrative we inherit is filled with gaps, omissions, and voices left unheard? The torn pages and missing records are not just accidents. They are reminders of stories that were never told, or perhaps deliberately erased. The saying, "History is written by the victors," holds a profound truth. Those who win wars, seize power, or control resources often get to decide which stories are preserved and which are forgotten. Their triumphs are celebrated, their perspectives immortalized, while the experiences of the defeated or marginalized are often brushed aside. Throughout the centuries, the powerful, conquerors, leaders, and the wealthy have shaped the narrative to serve their interests. They amplify their own achievements, justify their actions, and sometimes even rewrite events to cast themselves in a better light. Meanwhile, the voices of the powerless, the everyday people, are silenced or ignored, their stories left untold. Imagine history as a vast, chaotic library, its shelves overflowing with books. Some volumes are polished and proudly displayed, while countless others gather dust in forgotten corners. These neglected books represent the untold stories, the experiences of people who lived, struggled, and dreamed, but whose voices never made it into the official record. The stories of ordinary people, workers, families, children, and communities are often relegated to mere footnotes if they're mentioned at all. Their daily lives, hopes, and hardships are just as much a part of history as the deeds of kings and generals, yet they rarely take center stage. To truly understand the past, we must become historical detectives. This means questioning the official story, digging deeper, and seeking out the voices that were silenced or overlooked. It means listening to oral histories, reading old letters and diaries, and piecing together the fragments left behind by those who didn't have the power to write their own chapters. This isn't about rewriting history to suit our preferences, it's about completing it. By restoring lost stories and adding missing pages, we move closer to a more honest and inclusive understanding of our past. Every major event, wars, revolutions, discoveries, was experienced differently by different people. For some, a victory parade was a day of celebration. For others, it marked the beginning of hardship or loss. The same moment in time can mean hope for one group and despair for another. Only by listening to all these stories, by weaving together the perspectives of the many rather than the few, can we see a fuller, more honest picture of our shared past. History is not a single story, it's a tapestry of countless voices, each one adding depth and meaning to the human journey. Power is the ultimate editor of history, quietly shaping the stories we inherit and the lessons we learn. Those who hold authority, whether kings, presidents, or influential leaders, wield the ability to decide which events are remembered and which are forgotten. Their choices echo through generations, influencing how entire societies understand their origins and identities. The past is often defined through the lens of the powerful, with grand images of rulers and elites dominating our collective memory. These figures are celebrated in textbooks and monuments, while the struggles and contributions of ordinary people are frequently overlooked or minimized. Language, too, plays a crucial role in shaping our emotional response to history. The words chosen by those in power can soften harsh realities or glorify controversial actions, guiding public perception and sentiment. Terms like settlers and progress are often used to mask the reality of invasion, displacement, and exploitation. These words sanitize the violence and loss experienced by marginalized communities, making injustice seem like a natural part of development. The powerful also decide what is preserved and what is left to fade away. Archives, libraries, and museums often reflect the interests of the elite, creating a biased historical record that overrepresents their perspectives while silencing others. This curated version of history serves to justify existing inequalities, making the current social order appear natural, inevitable, and even desirable. It reassures those in power that their position is deserved, while discouraging challenges to the status quo. In this way, history comforts the comfortable and afflicts the afflicted, reinforcing the very power structures that shaped it. The stories of resistance, struggle, and resilience are often buried beneath narratives that favor the elite. To challenge this, we must actively question whose stories are being told and whose are being erased. By seeking out the voices and experiences that have been marginalized, we can begin to create a more honest and inclusive understanding of our shared past. The story of Columbus illustrates the power of perspective in history. For centuries, Columbus was celebrated as a heroic explorer, but for indigenous peoples, his arrival marked an invasion. The discovery myth survives because it serves national interests, creating a heroic origin story for the U.S. Acknowledging the truth of 1492 challenges American exceptionalism and reveals a history of conquest and genocide. History is not neutral, it's shaped by perspective. For too long, only one voice was heard. To understand history, we must listen to the silenced voices. The American Civil War's memory is as contested as the war itself. The official narrative frames it as a fight for freedom, but the Lost Cause ideology sought to redeem the Confederacy. This revisionism erased slavery's centrality, portraying Confederate leaders as noble. The Lost Cause narrative justified segregation and oppression, written by post-Reconstruction victors. Debates over Confederate symbols reflect the ongoing struggle to control the Civil War's story. Traditional history often ignores the majority, focusing on kings and generals. The stories of farmers, women, and the enslaved are absent, their contributions erased. Slavery's history was written by owners, not the enslaved, ignoring their suffering and resistance. Indigenous histories were dismissed, their cultures depicted as primitive obstacles to progress. Silencing these voices maintains inequality, making certain lives seem historically insignificant. We must seek out missing voices to write a history of all of us. Personal stories offer a powerful counter to grand narratives, restoring the human element to history. Olaudah Equiano's autobiography challenged pro-slavery propaganda, revealing the horrors of the slave trade. His story changed hearts and minds, demonstrating the power of a single voice. Personal testimonies create empathy, bridging the gap between past and present. They remind us that history was lived by people, not statistics. History isn't just found in grand monuments or famous documents. It's woven into the fabric of everyday objects that people once used, touched, and cherished. These humble items, often overlooked, offer us intimate glimpses into the lives of those who came before us. When we look closely at a worn cooking pot, a faded photograph, or a hand-carved toy, we're not just seeing objects, we're connecting with the daily rhythms, hopes, and struggles of ordinary people from another time. Take, for example, a patchwork quilt stitched during the Civil War, or a bundle of letters written by a soldier during World War I. These artifacts are more than just fabric and paper. They are living records of creativity, resilience, and the enduring human spirit in the face of hardship. Each stitch in a quilt might represent a prayer for safety, while every word in a letter could carry the weight of longing, love, and sacrifice. Through these objects, we can feel the human cost of war and the ways people found comfort and connection even in the darkest times. These everyday artifacts challenge the idea that history is only about big events, powerful leaders, or grand battles. Instead, they remind us that history is also made up of countless small moments and the lives of people whose names may never appear in textbooks. When we see a simple comb or a child's toy displayed next to a famous monument, we're reminded that the past belongs to everyone, not just the celebrated few. By focusing on these personal objects, we build a history from the bottom up, one that values lived experiences and the diversity of human stories. Historians and museum curators carefully study these artifacts to piece together how people worked, played, loved, and survived. Through their research, we gain a deeper understanding of how communities shaped their worlds and how ordinary people left extraordinary legacies. Each object is like a piece of a vast, intricate puzzle. When we fit them together, we create a richer, more democratic picture of the past. one that honors the contributions of people from all walks of life, across different eras and cultures. These artifacts help us see history not as a single story, but as a tapestry woven from many threads. In the end, these quiet, everyday objects remind us that everyone had a story worth telling. Sometimes, it's the simplest things, a child's shoe, a faded diary, a kitchen spoon, that speak the loudest, carrying the echoes of lives lived and lessons learned. Through them, the past comes alive, inviting us to listen, remember, and reflect. The power to write history is shifting, becoming more inclusive and democratic. Digital archives and the internet allow marginalized groups to preserve their stories. Social media challenges misrepresentations, creating real-time debates over history. New historians focus on social, women's, Black, and LGBTQ+ histories, enriching our understanding. The question of who writes history is no longer rhetorical. We all participate in making history. We must remain curious and critical, asking whose voices are heard and whose are missing.